Hello and welcome to another devlog for Peasant Uprise. Today I'll share what are the different systems in place to handle text, the mechanism that I implemented to handle translation to different languages, as well as the editor that I built for this. So let's get started. Some of you may have noticed that I do have an accent, and that's because English is not my first language. So it does make sense for Peasant Uprise to be available in my native language. Let's start by talking about the 4 different systems that handle text. First is the general static text that gets displayed in the screen, either the menus, panels, or the user interface. The dialogue system is quite different and therefore it requires a different treatment. Some of the text presented to the player is dynamic, meaning it's composed by code taking into account several variables like peasant names or other values. Finally, some images do have text, not a lot but a few, so I need to tackle those instances as well. But before going into these 4 tasks, I need a way for the player to select a language, and also a way to edit the language selection. I started with a screen that will only be shown once when you first launch the game, and will allow you to set your language of choice. And just in case someone made a mistake or wants to try a different language, in the settings menu I added a drop box to switch between languages. The general translation system is fairly standard, and it pretty much swaps your text with the appropriate language based on a key or an identifier. Now that we have a way to make a selection, we can go ahead and draw how this system is going to work. First, we store our content in a data format. In my case, each language is going to have a JSON file with its content. The next piece is a location manager, which is going to be the brains of the whole localization system. It is going to keep track of a key value dictionary, which is going to load the content based on the language previously selected. Then we can go ahead and create a Unity component, which is going to take a content key, and it's going to use that key to fetch the correct value from the dictionary. Once it has the right content, it's going to replace the default text with the translated one. This works well, but I soon found out that having close to 1000 keys was a problem to find the correct key in the Dropbox. So the next step was to create an extension attribute that would allow me to search for the key I want in the editor. So back to our diagram, we have the static text situation covered. Now the dynamic content is not so much different, only that instead of using a Unity component, I can call the localization manager directly through code. Cool. The dialogue system is also very similar, only that instead of extending a Unity mono behavior, I'm extending a dialogue command to also accept a content key, and kind of perform some of the same operations or replacement operations that the content controller does. Lastly, there are a few images that carry text, and I was thinking about 2 options, whether to create a component that swaps images or to brush up on my font creation and extract all the text from images. So I went with the second approach and simply removed all text from images and used the content controller instead. Well, it was not as simple as that, since some text was heavily stylized and also curved. So it took a bit of work to make this replacement, but it's done now, and it's just best practice that images don't hold any text anyway. Okay, so all systems checked in and working, but we're talking about hundreds of items per language to translate, so editing the JSON files manually would not only be error-prone, but a pain as well. So an editor would fit well in this scenario. I considered 3 options. The first was to create the editor in Unity, much like my debugging toolkit, but I discarded that option, mainly because the project is already getting very large and I want to remove any logic that doesn't need to be there. Also, editor windows are very limited on what you can do when it comes to editing or sorting a table grid. The second option was to use Excel and just create a macro to extract the content. And while visually this was the best way to handle content, I really want each language to be its own file, and I wanted more flexibility to do other things with this content. So finally, I went with the option of leveraging my existing WPF app that I built to manage backups and the project overall, and I added a new section to handle localization. What I like about this approach is that it's integrated with other tools, and since it's a custom tool, I can do whatever I want with it. It's flexible enough from the UI standpoint, and it's pure C# code, so definitely it opens the door to many combination of actions and project management. I'm happy with the final result, and by extracting the editor, it allows me to reuse the same tool and mechanics for any other project, as the localization system is pretty generic. I'd like to take a minute to thank DMM and El Escocés for showcasing Peasant Uprise on their channel. The link to their videos is available in the description. So that's it for this devlog. Let me know if you have implemented localization on your game, and if so, what approach did you take? Please share it in the comments. Thanks. With that said, I'll see you in the next update.